It's another episode of Butt Crack Cycles. You can probably hear the rain coming down in the trees around me. As some of you all know, sort of my main gig is doing mobile service on heavy-duty diesels, and motorcycles are kind of a side gig, though I'm steadily working to make the motorcycles be, like, you know, my bread and butter, my actual all-day, everyday job. So rainy days kind of suck for the diesel work, but it means I get to come out here to my little motorcycle shop and have some time to still be productive, whether it's on other people's bikes that I've bought to fix and flip and then resell, or like today, my own bike. You can see I've got a fuel filter. This is a Pingle inline filter. We're going to install this on my blue bike. The last time I rode this bike, my Ironhead, has probably been like 2 weeks ago, which kind of sucks. I like to ride like at least a couple days a week. But in any event, this bike started acting up on me. I rode it like 90 miles or so in a day with some buddies, and I ran it low on fuel, and I stopped to get gas, and after I filled the bike up with gas, it started sort of spitting and popping, and then breaking up under throttle, and then not wanting to idle good, and finally got to a point where it just wouldn't run at all. Yeah, that's not sounding so hot. So I think I probably stirred up some crap in the tank, and probably clogged my carburetor up. So we're gonna spend some time today working on that, and maybe I've got some brakes to do on this bike too. We might do brakes in this episode, we might do brakes in another episode, I don't know yet. I'm gonna stop yapping, grab the tripod, and start working. So I'm gonna start with just draining the tank. Like I said, I think I probably stirred up some crap inside this tank. This is an older tank. It's been on this bike for, I don't know, probably close to 30 years. It has been sealed inside with like that cream stuff, but it's slowly coming apart. Flip this over to reserve. Petcock's flowing good, but I wanted to drain this just to be able to pull the petcock out and clean off the petcock screen inside of there, because I bet there's some junk on the petcock screen. While the fuel's draining out, we'll come over here to the other side of the bike and take our air cleaner off and the backing plate for the air cleaner. And then that way we can pull the carburetor off. This is one thing that some of the little bit newer stuff has going for it. CD carburetor is usually a little bit faster and easier to pull off than S&S or something that actually bolts onto the intake manifold. This is obviously not an S&S, this is still the original K-Hen butterfly carb, which I like. But overall, still pretty easy to do, easy to work on. Okay. I don't know if that comes through well on camera. Look at that highway peg's gotten loose. Tighten that up here in a minute. Other one feels tight. Anyways, still well, there's still some fuel in the carburetor bowl there. There you have it, one K-Hen butterfly. Let's pour the gas out of this thing and take it over to the workbench and see what we find inside. So we've got the carb on the workbench here, and I'm just going to take the bowl off of this thing. Hopefully some of these screw heads are starting to get a little bit boogered over the years. Might be worth replacing them at some point in the near future. Maybe I could order some. It's supposed to rain for like days on end, so not like I'll be missing any real great riding weather. Okay, let's crack it open. Amazingly, there's not nearly as much junk and trash in there as I was expecting. In fact, That actually looks pretty clean. I'm going to pull this plug out right here though, and the idle jet on a K-Hen's down inside there, and there's your main right next to it. We're going to pull both of these out and see how they look. So there's our main jet. It's perfectly clear. Here's our idle jet. This is really hard to get on camera, but that actually looks like it's clear too. So I just took the carburetor body and went and blew through all of the passages. You can see I took the float out and made sure that we were flowing fuel into the bowl well, and I just blew on it with my mouth and then hosed some brake clean down in it. And I've blown through all the passages. I've even taken the idle mixture screw out and blown through that too. Everything seems clear, and this carburetor bowl, honestly, there's hardly any trash in this, like, at all. Those are casting marks. I've seen way worse trash in this carb before. I'm starting to wonder, is this actually a fuel problem? So I'm going to slap this back together and we'll sit down and talk. Also, while I'm thinking about it, if you have one of these K-Hen butterfly carbs, make sure right here where your idle jet goes that you put this rubber plug in there. You have to have it in there. I've seen people leave them out and they cannot get one of these to run. So if you see that in your carb kit, or your carb's running funny and that's missing, that's why. So I've got the carburetor back together. Like y'all saw, it wasn't really that dirty inside. Like, it wasn't dirty at all. And I pulled the petcock out. I haven't cleaned this. You can see, probably not gonna come through the greatest because I got the camera a little bit wider angle. This thing's clean. There's not a speck of dirt or rust or inside of the tank on this anywhere. But that brings me to kind of like some thoughts here. I don't actually think we have a fuel problem going on. I have two ideas of what I think might be the actual problem here. The first is that maybe we have intakes leaking again, intake boots. This is a pretty new set of intake boots on this bike. I think I put them on back in September, October. It was back in the fall, so they're like less than 9 months old. And it's the FNA Cycles ones, the tight seals. Those are really good intake boots. I've got them on my shovel. They've been on that bike for a long time, and I've had no trouble out of them. But I'm going to double check that the clamps are tight and that I can't move anything around, and just make sure that nothing's gotten torn. This bike does have a bracket for the air cleaner. Y'all probably saw it when I was taking that off. So it holds the carburetor up. It goes kind of underneath the tank and holds it up. So it's not just cantilevering and bouncing off of the intake seals. So I don't know if that's going to be our problem. My other thought here is that maybe I have had an ignition timing cup start to work itself loose. I've seen this before on other bikes. I've had it happen on this bike before. This bike went from running good to all of a sudden spitting and popping back through the carburetor. And the last time I tried to start it, it was kind of booming and backfiring. I figured it was just because it was super duper lean and it couldn't get fuel through the carburetor well. But maybe we have an ignition problem. So I'm going to turn the camera off and walk back over to the bike, and we're going to keep working on this thing and figure out what's going on. So I've gotten the points cover off of this bike, and while I'm thinking about it, this all looks fine. All the clamps were tight and you can't move that at all. I can shake the bike with it. So I'm thinking that's probably fine. Down here though, this is going to be hard to catch on the camera because it's kind of dark, but if you wipe your finger right here, you see, look at my finger. If it'll focus, it's not going to. It's a little bit of sort of shiny right there. I've got the plate scribed to where the bolts go in, so I've got kind of a rough idea of where to put this back. It'll get it close enough that the bike will run, and then we can actually time it. So I'll take this loose and see what we find. You can kind of see it there. Some of that shiny metal material. Well, let's pull this off and see what we get. Yahtzee. Damn. That ate into the back of that ignition module really badly. Weasel this out of the way and try and get the light where y'all can see it. But that's the timing cup. This thing spins around on the camshaft, and you can see this one has ripped itself to pieces. Awesome. Let's take that out. Alright, so there's our timing cup pulled out, and what happens on one of these, you can see right here, there's supposed to be a little tit right there. Let me zoom it up here. Yep, so there's supposed to be like a little tit right there that fits into a keyway on the cam, and you can see this one has just sheared itself completely off. This is not uncommon on these timing cups. This is the second time this has happened on this bike. I've fixed several other bikes that this has happened to, so we're going to need to order a new timing cup, but also I'm going to need to order a new actual ignition. This is fairly well roached. You can see that timing cup has just worn a big scraped groove into the back of the plate, and it looks like it's gotten into the actual magnetic pickups. Pretty sure this is just like a Hall effect sensor. In any event, doesn't really matter. It's trashed these pickups too, so I'm gonna tuck this away so it's not rubbing on any chrome. We're gonna need to replace that. You can sometimes sneak the electronic ignition wires through the cam cover, but a lot of times it's easier to just go ahead and pull the cam cover off. So I guess I'm gonna order a cam gasket too, or a cam cover gasket too. So I threw the carburetor and the air cleaner back on, hooked the fuel lines back up, and throttle cable and all that mess. And yeah, kind of funny. That's how it goes sometimes. You can be just absolutely convinced that you have a fuel problem and it's really an ignition problem, or the other way around. So just remember when you're working on this old stuff to never get too focused down a rabbit hole of it has to be this. It's really coincidental that this bike started acting up after I got fuel, and that's what put it in my head that this has to be a carburetor problem, this has to be a fuel issue. But the carburetor looked perfect, everything looked fine there. As y'all saw, we had an ignition issue. So I've got my factory parts manual right here. You can see I've been flipping through it. I made myself a little list of parts to order, and I'm gonna jump on the computer when I walk back inside here in a little bit. I'm gonna eat some lunch. I'm just gonna order another factory style ignition module for this bike. This one that's been on it hasn't really given me any trouble other than the 2 cups that it's exploded, but the actual ignition part has been totally fine. And I don't see the need to go to something like a Dynatech. There's no point on this bike. It doesn't need that much ignition, I don't think, not in my opinion. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I've had really good luck out of the factory style ignition on this motorcycle, so I have no reason to change to anything else. But yeah, there'll be plenty of more Ironhead content here soon. We'll do an episode about changing that ignition module. Like I said at the start of this video, I've got some brake work to do to the back of this bike. I'll let that be its own separate episode. And I'm still waiting on some parts for my shovel head, but I'm moving right along on that. And yeah, that's where we're at here in Butt Crack Cycles Land. I appreciate each and every one of you who watches this channel. Thanks to everybody who always writes comments on my videos. I try and reply to every comment if I can. Some of the videos get a ton of comments, so if you're writing on a video that has like 400 or 500 comments on it already, chances are I'm not going to reply just because it's just overwhelming. But I try and write back to y'all when I can, and I appreciate everybody who watches this channel. I appreciate especially everybody who has bought something off the web store, buttcrackcycles.com. I'm going to try and get some more stuff up there soon. And yeah, that's it. I'm done yapping. Bye.